Itachi is by far one of my favorite characters in all of Naruto, so this got me thinking, what if he hit the Control Z button and got reborn with all his memories and powers? Would he actually manage to save the Uchiha clan this time around? And more importantly, how much would he end up rewriting the entire story? Let's get right into it, starting with how he even gets reborn in the first place. Well, you see, this whole thing kicks right off at the very tail end of the war, right after Itachi and Sasuke absolutely cook Kabuto and unravel the Edo Tensei together. Before his soul fades, Itachi gets one last real moment with his little brother, telling him exactly how much he loves him and that he'll support whatever path Sasuke chooses from here. No conditions attached. Right after that, his soul gets pulled back toward the Pure Land, the way it's supposed to be. Except, for this timeline to actually work, we're going to say that the second his soul leaves that reanimated body, instead of dissolving peacefully into the afterlife, it gets yanked straight back through time and dropped into his own infant self. When Itachi opens his eyes for the first time, he has two extremely familiar faces staring back down at him. His father Fugaku and his mother Mikoto Uchiha. And understandably, baby Itachi has no idea what's happening. He wonders if this is some strange side effect of dying mid-Edo Tensei, or maybe this actually is the afterlife, just dressed up as his own childhood. It isn't until he hits around age 2 that Itachi, being Itachi, actually pieces it together. This isn't a fever dream, and it isn't the afterlife either. He's genuinely been reborn, memories and all, and he has no clue how or why. So he does the only thing that makes sense to a mind like his. He shelves the question of how for later and quietly promises himself he's going to save everyone this time and change the entire Shinobi world for good. Now, you might be wondering, with all his memories and powers, wouldn't he be completely overpowered from day one? That's a valid question, and the answer is no. You see, he might have all his memories from his past life, but he's still stuck in the body of a little kid. His mind knows exactly what to do. His body just can't keep up yet. Here, I would like to thank today's sponsor, Polybuzz AI. And why do I personally love this app? Because it lets me speak with thousands of anime characters about anything I want. Whether I want to have a bit of fun with my favorite characters like Sasuke, Gojo, Luffy, or whether I want to step up the play a bit more and talk with Hinata, Nami, Robin, or Mitsuri, Polybuzz lets me do just that. What makes this app this great is the fact that it turns your wildest dreams and fantasies into reality by letting you speak with your favorite characters about pretty much anything you want. So, for example, the other day, I felt like chatting with Hinata. Hey, so I read somewhere that Naruto uses the Shadow Clone Jutsu when he's alone with you. Why is that? Hinata's reply? Well, once you download Polybuzz yourself, you can ask her yourself and find out. But oh well, that was just one of the countless conversations you can have yourself with any anime character you want. And not just that, you can even create your very own AI characters, personalize their traits, and chat with them about anything you want. And let me just tell you that as an anime fan, you will never get bored of it. And by using my code SHIN8, you get access to 3 days premium membership completely free of charge. Use my link in the description down below to download Polybuzz AI and start chatting with your favorite anime characters today. Believe me, you will not regret it. But now, let's get back to our video. So instead of rushing things, he starts small. He learns to feel out his chakra network from scratch, keeping every bit of his training quiet enough that nobody notices a toddler doing things no toddler should be able to do. That almost falls apart when he's 3. One afternoon, Mikoto walks into his room just as he's trying to hold together a half-formed shadow clone using nothing but raw chakra control. He barely cancels the jutsu in time and turns the whole thing into what looks like a childish tantrum. It works, but only just. The scare sticks with him. For the next few months, he refuses to train during the day, waiting until everyone is asleep before he even thinks about touching chakra again. By the time he's 4, he's already mastered the Shadow Clone Jutsu and the Fireball Jutsu. On top of that, he's awakened his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Any one of those would be enough to send the entire Uchiha clan into a frenzy if they found out. So, nobody does. Not his parents, not the elders, not even Itachi. Because the moment people start asking why a 4-year-old is this strong, every plan he's spent years putting together starts falling apart before it ever has the chance to begin. And here's the thing, Itachi already knows what's coming next. By the time he's 5, Sasuke will be born. And not long after that, the Ninetales will attack the village and change everything. He remembers every bit of it. The problem is, knowing the future and actually being able to change it are two completely different things. Itachi can't exactly walk into the Hokage's office and announce that he knows what's about to happen. At best, they'd brush it off as the imagination of a gifted kid. At worst, they'd start asking questions nobody can afford to answer. And if anyone somehow connects a 5-year-old predicting the Ninetales attack to the Uchiha, he could end up triggering the massacre even earlier. So instead, he goes to the one person he believes might actually listen, Shisui. Thanks to the Itachi Shinden novels, we know the two originally met during a training exercise around the time Itachi entered the academy. Itachi was 5 and Shisui was 8. This time though, Itachi doesn't leave that meeting to chance. He already knows where Shisui likes to train. So instead of waiting for fate to bring them together, he goes looking for him himself. And because this is still Itachi, he can't resist showing off just a little. The moment they meet, he starts landing kunai throws with a level of precision precision no 5-year-old should have. Shisui notices almost immediately, and the two become friends far earlier than they ever did in the original timeline. From there, everything develops naturally. They spend hours sparring, comparing notes on chakra control, and constantly pushing each other to improve. Before long, Shisui stops looking at Itachi like an unusually gifted kid and starts treating him like an equal. That's exactly what Itachi wanted, because sooner or later, he's going to ask Shisui to believe something almost impossible. A couple of months later, during one of their usual sparring sessions, Itachi suddenly lowers his guard and tells him the truth. He's from the future. Shisui just laughs, convinced this has to be some elaborate joke. Itachi expected that. Without saying another word, he activates his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. The smile vanishes from Shisui's face. He knew Itachi was a prodigy, but this shouldn't be possible. A 5-year-old shouldn't even have awakened the Sharingan, let alone mastered all 3 Tomoe. Before Shisui can even find the words, Itachi pulls him into a genjutsu. He doesn't trap him there, he simply lets him witness fragments of the future exactly as he remembers them. The Nine Tails tearing through Konoha, the Uchiha massacre, Shisui's own death, and finally, Itachi standing over his parents with blood on his hands. The illusion ends, and Shisui stumbles backward, panic written all over his face. He demands to know what he just saw, and Itachi quietly tells him everything. How the coup spiraled out of control, how Danzo manipulated events, how he was forced to choose between his clan and the village, and how, in the end, he became the one who slaughtered the Uchiha. Shisui doesn't know what to say. He just stares at Itachi in horror before turning and running. Honestly, I can't really blame him. Itachi doesn't follow. Every instinct tells him to chase after his friend and explain more, but he knows this isn't something that can be fixed with a mere few words. Some truths need time to settle. Moments after Shisui disappears into the trees, the weight of everything crashes down on him. Tears begin rolling down his face, and before he even realizes what's happening, his Mangekyo Sharingan awakens once again. Reliving those memories wasn't just painful for Shisui. For Itachi, it meant watching his parents die all over again, carrying the guilt of everyone he lost, and reopening wounds that had never truly healed. A couple days later, Shisui comes back to that same spot. The two of them talk for a while, and Shisui admits that even though the whole thing still feels impossibly strange, he's not willing to just sit back and watch the people he loves die when he's now been shown exactly how it happens. He also makes Itachi promise one thing before agreeing to any of it, that whatever they end up doing together, it never happens by forcing someone else's hand the way Itachi just forced his by showing him all of that unannounced. Itachi agrees, and it's a promise that ends up shaping a lot more of their future together than either of them realizes in that moment. And just like that, the two of them are locked in together. From that point on, they train whenever they can sneak the time, quietly building an actual plan for how they're going to handle the night the Nine Tails gets loose. The next few years of training aren't just about getting stronger. Every session is built around one specific goal, surviving one specific night. Shisui hones his body flicker for silence and precision instead of pure speed, because slipping past Anbu patrols matters a lot more than winning a race. Meanwhile, Itachi spends just as much time studying patrol routes and memorizing every inch of the terrain around Kushina's hidden birthing site as he does practicing jutsu. The entire plan comes down to timing. By the time Sasuke is born and the countdown to the Nine Tails attack finally begins, they've already rehearsed that night in their heads more times than either of them can count. There's just one problem. In the original timeline, Fugaku and Mikoto leave baby Sasuke in Itachi's care before heading out to deal with the attack. This time, Itachi can't stay behind. So just before they leave, he quietly creates a shadow clone, leaves it beside Sasuke's crib, gently kisses his little brother on the forehead, and slips out with Shisui before anyone notices. It's a small deception, but one he's willing to live with if it means Sasuke gets to grow up with both of his parents. Obviously, the plan isn't to fight Obito head-on. That would be suicide! Even if this version of Itachi is way stronger than he was in the original timeline, Obito was still way stronger. We have to remember that he was only around 14 when he launched the Nine Tails attack, yet he still pushed Minato harder than almost anyone ever had, before getting mogged, of course. But the point is, if Minato, arguably the strongest shinobi alive at the time, couldn't just steamroll him, then two kids don't stand a chance, and fighting the Nine Tails is even less realistic. The entire strategy revolves around changing the conditions of that night before everything spirals out of control. The first hurdle is getting out of the Uchiha compound. That sounds simple until you remember what actually happened in canon. The clan elders ordered every Uchiha to stay behind and defend the civilian district, partly because suspicion was already beginning to fall on the clan. Luckily, nobody is paying close attention to two kids. While everyone else prepares for the emergency, Shisui uses his body flicker to slip himself and Itachi out of the compound without anyone realizing they're gone. From there, Itachi's knowledge of the future does the heavy lifting. Kushina's birthing location was one of Konoha's best kept secrets, a hidden barrier cave outside the village known only to Minato, Biwako, and a handful of Anbu. Normally, finding it would be impossible. Itachi doesn't have a problem. He already knows exactly where it is, so he leads Shisui straight to the perimeter long before Obito ever shows up. That's where the real plan starts. They know they can't stop Obito from cutting through the Anbu guards. Two kids aren't aren't beating a Kamui user after all. They don't need to. All they have to do is buy Minato a couple of seconds, and when the guy you're trying to help has the Flying Thunder God, a couple of seconds can change the entire night. The instant Obito breaches the barrier, Shisui triggers the alarm himself. Whether that's a signal flare or a tagged kunai hitting the barrier seal doesn't really matter. The point is to warn Minato before Obito can make his move. To almost anyone else, a 2-second head start wouldn't mean much. To Minato, it's everything. It's enough time to grab Kushina and the newborn Naruto and teleport them somewhere safe before Obito ever gets the chance to rip Kurama out of her. Of course, there's still the possibility that Obito manages to pull the extraction off anyway and unleashes the Ninetales on the village. If that happens, Minato is still going to face him one-on-one. That's where the second half of the plan comes in. Long before the night arrives, Itachi writes out a coded scroll explaining exactly how Kamui works, the 5-minute limit on its intangibility, the fact that it's a space-time ninjutsu instead of some invincible ability, and the openings it creates if you know what you're looking for. Shisui's only job is to get that scroll into Minato's hands before the fight begins. Instead of spending half the battle trying to figure out Obito's ability, Minato walks in already knowing the answer. The fight ends much faster than it did in the original timeline. Because Shisui triggered the alarm early, Hiruzen has already sent Medical Ninja toward the cave before anyone else even understands what's happening. Instead of bleeding out alone in an isolated cave while nobody knows where to look, Kushina has help arrive in time to save her. In the end, that's all this plan was ever about, which means Naruto never becomes an orphan, and more importantly, he never becomes the Ninetales Jinchuriki at all. He never subscribes to the traumatic childhood trauma he experienced in the original timeline. And speaking of subscribing, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and let's keep on going. With Naruto safe and Minato still standing exactly where he's supposed to be, Shisui's faith in Itachi only grows stronger. Before long, the two of them enroll in the academy together, and for a while, history starts following a similar path again. Minato becomes the 4th Hokage, Hiruzen steps back into retirement, and on the surface, everything almost looks like the original timeline. The difference is what happens behind the scenes. Training alongside Itachi pushes Shisui harder than ever before, and as a result, he unlocks abilities like Kodo Amatsukami much earlier than he did in the original timeline. Not long after that, just like Itachi remembers, Shisui awakens his Mangekyo Sharingan. Exactly what caused it? We honestly don't know. Canon never tells us what tragedy awakened Shisui's eyes, only that whatever happened was devastating enough to trigger them. Now, stopping Obito from getting the Ninetales doesn't magically erase him from the story, and that's important to remember. His downfall started long before that night. It started the moment he watched Rin die and convinced himself the world itself had to change. Failing to capture Kurama doesn't fix that. It just robs him of his opening move. So instead, Obito disappears back into the shadows and continues building the Akatsuki in secret. From here onward, things play out almost exactly like the original timeline. Sasuke and Naruto still become best friends, the academy years pass much the same, and everything stays surprisingly normal right up until the point where the Uchiha massacre should have happened. The difference is that Itachi and Shisui have been preparing for this day for years. By now, Itachi is 13 while Shisui is 16, and they've already mapped out exactly how they're going to stop it. Their plan is split into 3 phases. Phase 1, secure Minato's trust. Instead of going anywhere near the Uchiha elders, the two go straight to the 4th Hokage. Itachi already knows Danzo is the real problem, so he tells Minato everything he needs to know. A rogue Uchiha manipulated the Ninetales attack to frame the clan, and someone inside Konoha is using that fear to push the village towards civil war. He leaves out the whole I'm from the future part, of course, but Minato doesn't need every detail. He already knows these two risk their lives to save his family. That's more than enough for him to listen. From that moment on, Minato becomes the Uchiha's biggest defender, refusing to let Danzo pin the Ninetales attack on the entire clan without proof. Phase 2, remove Danzo. This is honestly the easiest part, because Itachi already knows every dirty secret Danzo has spent years burying. His illegal experiments with Orochimaru, the stolen Sharingan, Root, the assassinations, every single one of them gets quietly handed over to Minato and Hiruzen. They investigate, the evidence checks out, and Danzo's political career is over before he even gets the chance to push the village towards genocide. Root is dismantled, Danzo is arrested for treason, and for the final phase, even though Danzo is gone, that doesn't magically erase the anger inside the Uchiha clan. There are still members pushing for a rebellion, and that's where Shisui finally uses Kodo Amatsukami. Fugaku's desire to protect his people stays exactly the same, but the path changes. Instead of preparing for a coup, he chooses diplomacy. Minato helps the process along by rewarding the Uchiha for their loyalty during the Ninetales attack, bringing the police force closer to the rest of Konoha's military, and finally giving the clan the political voice they'd been denied for years. And just like that, the Uchiha Uchiha massacre never happens. Danzo is locked away for good, Shisui's mother never dies, and neither do the thousands of innocent Uchiha who were wiped out in the original timeline. From here onward, the story mostly follows the original. Naruto and Sasuke still become best friends, but Naruto grows into a much more polished shinobi this time around. Without Kurama constantly messing with his chakra control, he flies through the academy instead of failing the graduation exam over and over again. Throw in the fact that Minato occasionally trains him himself, and he's easily one of the strongest students in his class. Even so, Minato still asks Kakashi to take Naruto as a student. Team 7 was his old team, and there's nobody he trusts more to help shape his son into a great ninja. So Team 7 still comes together, and the Land of Waves art plays out pretty much the same. The Forest of Death basically never turns into the disaster it did in the original timeline. You see, Orochimaru was only so obsessed with stealing Sasuke's body because there were barely any Uchiha left. He tried going after Itachi first and got absolutely bogged, so Sasuke became the next best option. But now, the Uchiha massacre never happened. The clan is still alive, Orochimaru has plenty of Sharingan to experiment with, and he has no reason to single Sasuke out anymore. The exams continue almost exactly as they should, up until Orochimaru launches his invasion disguised as the Kazekage. He still tries to assassinate Hiruzen, but this time, Itachi already knows that it's coming. Before the exams even begin, he tells Shisui everything. Since they're both Anbu, the two quietly take positions near Hiruzen, waiting for Orochimaru to make his move. The second the barrier goes up, they jump in, with Hiruzen, Itachi, Shisui, and eventually Minato all fighting together. Orochimaru gets completely overwhelmed and captured before he can kill the former third Hokage. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, Naruto and Gaara's fight still plays out much the same. The biggest difference is that this time around, Naruto doesn't have Kurama's chakra to bail him out whenever things get rough. Instead, he has to rely entirely on his own massive chakra reserves. Luckily for him, Minato's training more than makes up for it. Thanks to everything he's learned, Naruto is still able to summon Gamabunta to help him turn the battle around. In the end, he defeats Gaara just like he did in the original timeline, not by overpowering him, but with his trademark Talk no Jutsu, pulling him back from the darkness and setting him on the path to become the Kazekage. Because Orochimaru gets captured, two massive things happen. First, the Sasuke retrieval arc never happens. But even bigger than that, Kabuto never becomes Orochimaru's apprentice. Without Orochimaru around to take him under his wing, Kabuto never learns Snake Sage Mode. And more importantly, he never unlocks Edo Tensei. Now you could argue that Kabuto might try to break Orochimaru out, but let's be real here. With the absolute monsters protecting Konoha at this point, even Kabuto is smart enough to know that's a one-way trip, so he doesn't even try. Now let's tally up what Itachi has actually pulled off at this point. He stopped Obito and saved Naruto's parents, he prevented the Uchiha massacre, and now the entire Edo Tensei plan is basically dead in the water. That is an insane amount of change for one single timeline. And so you might be wondering, does anybody actually notice all of this? Oh, you bet somebody does, and that person is none other than Black Zetsu. Remember, this thing has been quietly pulling the strings of the shinobi world for over 1,000 years. He's not about to sit back eating popcorn while some teenager completely dismantles his life's work. Almost immediately, he realizes Itachi is the anomaly behind all of these changes. The only problem is, he can't actually do anything about it. So all he can do is sit back, watch, and grow more impatient as every one of his plans falls apart. Meanwhile, the Akatsuki still forms, and they still begin hunting the tailed beasts. But here's where Itachi's memories become an absolute weapon. He puts together detailed reports on every single Akatsuki member, their names, abilities, weaknesses, fighting styles, everything, and quietly slips them to the Hokage's office. Minato goes through the reports and almost immediately notices how perfectly Obito's abilities match what he witnessed the night of the Nine-Tails attack. Realizing how serious the threat is, he sends that information to the other great nations. Of course, they don't listen. Why would they? At this point, leaders like Onoki are still hiring the Akatsuki as mercenaries. So from their perspective, they're just another group of powerful shinobi for hire. That leaves Konoha as the only village taking the threat seriously. The second the tailed beasts start disappearing though, everything changes. The Raikage immediately goes into full paranoid Big Brother mode because if there's one person he's never taking chances with, it's Killer Bee. So he sends both Bee and Yugito, the two-tails Jinchuriki, straight to the Hidden Leaf, where they're far better protected. And here's a fun little detail. Even though Naruto isn't a Jinchuriki in this timeline, he and Bee Shinobi still hit it off almost immediately, just like they did in the original. I guess some friendships are just meant to happen no matter what timeline you're in. From there, a lot of the story plays out similarly, just with a few major upgrades. The Kazekage rescue arc goes much more smoothly because Itachi's intel means Konoha already knows exactly who they're up against before they even leave the village. Asuma still gets dragged into the fighting, but this time he gets away with nothing more than a few injuries, which means he actually gets to go home, be there for Kurenai, and watch his unborn child grow up. Sometimes the little victories are the ones that matter the most. And then we arrive at the pain arc. Except it never happens. You see, in the original timeline, the whole reason Jiraiya went on that solo mission was to uncover the identity of the Akatsuki's leader. But thanks to Itachi, Konoha already has that information years in advance. But Itachi already handed all of that over years ago. There's nothing left for Jiraiya to go and find. So he never takes that mission, and he never dies. And an actual attack on Konoha would just be suicide. Because look who's standing on that wall right now. Minato, Hiruzen, Itachi, Shisui, Fugaku, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Killer Bee, Yugito. Nagato would take one look at that lineup and turn right back around. After years of watching every single plan blow up in his face, Black Zetsu finally accepts that the original Akatsuki strategy is dead. So he goes to Obito and basically says, "We're finished if we keep going like this. Konoha is stronger than ever. The Uchiha are still alive, and somehow every move we make gets predicted before we even make it. We retreat, we wait, and we look for another opening." And honestly, that's exactly how Black Zetsu thinks. The guy's been waiting for over 1,000 years. Waiting another 10 doesn't bother him in the slightest. But Obito, he's a completely different story. He was never the patient one. He's emotional, still chasing the dream Rin died for, and he's watching that dream slip further away every single time one of his plans falls apart. Eventually, he just snaps. He looks at Black Zetsu and says, "No, I've waited long enough. If they won't hand over the tailed beasts, then I'll take them by force." And just like that, Obito declares the 4th grade ninja war years earlier than he ever did in the original timeline. Now, you're probably wondering, hang on, there's no Edo Tensei this time, so how does he even fight a war? Simple, the White Zetsu army. Madara had already cultivated tens of thousands of White Zetsu using Hashirama cells and the demonic statue long before any of this started. Add the surviving Akatsuki heavy hitters like Nagato, Kisame, Deidara, Kakuzu, Sasori, Konen, and Obito himself. And on paper, that sounds like an army capable of taking on the entire Shinobi world. The problem is, paper doesn't win battles. Take one look at what Konoha is fielding. Itachi, Shisui, Sasuke, who might not be quite as strong as his revenge-driven counterpart from the original timeline, but after years of training under Itachi, he's still an absolute monster. A prime Naruto, Fugaku, Jiraiya, Minato, Hiruzen. Against a lineup like that, Obito's chances were slim from the start. The war ends far quicker than it ever did in the canon. Obito gets completely overwhelmed, and Black Zetsu, who saw the writing on the wall long before anyone else, quietly slips away into hiding to wait for another opportunity. The final confrontation still ends the way you'd hope. Naruto hits Obito with the trademark Talk no Jutsu and actually gets through to him. But since this timeline played out so differently, there's no Kaguya waiting in the wings and no dramatic sacrifice at the end of it all. Instead, Obito is arrested and finally forced to answer for everything that he's done. And that heartbreaking Naruto versus Sasuke battle at the Valley of the End, it never happens. This time around, it never needed to. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering about Itachi's illness, but remember, the only reason he became so sick in the original timeline was because he spent years pushing his Mangekyo Sharingan far beyond its limits. Here, he never has to. Sure, he overexerts himself during the war, but with Konoha's medical ninja right there to treat him, he recovers just fine. With the war finally over, everything starts falling into place. Naruto and Hinata end up together and have Boruto and Himawari. Sasuke and Sakura get their happy ending too, and Sarada actually grows up knowing her uncle Itachi, which honestly feels like the ending the Uchiha deserved all along. And for the first time in his life, Itachi isn't remembered as a criminal who died in the shadows. He's remembered as one of the greatest heroes the Leaf Village ever produced. But just like in the original timeline, Momoshiki and Kinshiki eventually come knocking. And this is where things get interesting. Since Naruto and Sasuke never had to fight Ten Tails Obito, they never met Hagoromo, never received the Yin and Yang seals, and never reached those absurd 6 paths levels of power. So, does that mean they lose to the Otsutsuki? Well, not so fast. Even without those power-ups, Konoha is still stacked. Itachi, Shisui, Minato. Sure, they're a lot older by this point, but they're still some of the strongest shinobi alive. life. Add adult Naruto and Sasuke into the mix, and I honestly think they still have what it takes to bring down Momoshiki and Kinshiki. It's not like Naruto and Sasuke suddenly become weaker just because they never met Hagoromo. But hey, that's just my take on what would happen if Itachi was reborn with all of his memories. What do you think? Would this version of Konoha be strong enough to stop the Otsutsuki? Or did Itachi accidentally create an even bigger problem down the line? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and click on this video next for more awesome anime content. Go on, check it out.